And finally, this one has a costume change. Please indulge me. Talk amongst yourselves. All right. This is called The One That Got Away. Oh, you might want to go handheld for this because I'm going to roam now. Don't you go telling me no fishing stories. Oh, no, because I've got the one to beat all. Every word of it's gospel truth. And I ought to know, because I was right there in the boat when it happened. At least I was, till the boat got torn asunder by the most ferocious... I'm getting ahead of myself, ain't I? And here, we ain't even been introduced yet. Name's Vesper, Aldo Vesper. And I hails from Boulder Junction, Wisconsin. Now, seeing how I'm a fishing guy by profession, Boulder Junction, BJ, it ain't a bad place to be. Because you see, it's the musky fishing capital of the world. Now, there's another town up here, Hayward, makes the same claim, and some folks believe them, because they got themselves a fiberglass muskie in Hayward, 100 and some feet long. Statues don't mean crap. In BJ, we got the real McCoy, and big ones, and plenty of them. Oh, you know what I'm talking about when I says muskie? Huh? You do, don't you? It's just the biggest, nastiest, smartest son of a gun game fish in fresh water, that's all. Typical adult gets up there in the 3.5 to 4 foot range, so I've seen them bigger, let me tell you. Oh, much. Now, it's a pike, so it's got a long, pointy snoot and a mouth full of sharp little teeth, and it's got stripes running up and down its sides like a tiger, which is pretty damn appropriate, let me tell you. Especially when it comes to a certain muskie that getting ahead of herself again. If I'm going to tell you this story, I'm going to do it right, and that means from the start. It was a Friday afternoon. I stopped into Walgreens to buy some antifreeze. They was having a sale. But by the time I got there, they was all sold out. So I says to Gus, the owner of that franchise, I says, you still going to give me the sale price when the next antifreeze shipment comes in, even if the sale's over? And he looks at me, Gus does, real sarcastic like he says, oh, sure I am, because I ain't in this business to make a living or nothing. I'm in it for the solitary purpose of turning Aldo Vesper's life into Bargain City. And I says to him, ooh, Gus, you're going to get it. Well, then I leave the Walgreens, I head on down to Ray's Bait and Tackle to shoot the breeze with the boys, and it's there at Ray's that I meet this fella, Michael. Not Mike, not Mikey, not Mickey. Michael. You know you can always spot a yuppie by his first name. Oh yeah, them bastards would sooner die than let themselves get casualized. Now this Michael, he's from Chicago, and I can tell right away from his accent, because they all got this ridiculous way of talking. He's up in BJ for a week, he says, to catch a muskie. Not to go muskie fishing, mind you. To catch a muskie 1 week. Oh, yes, he's laughing because she knows. There's people been fishing for months or even years without a lick of luck. Now, myself, I've caught more than a few, but there were those other ones. Like the one I had on the line once, headed straight for the back of the boat, and brought the line against the stationary motor blade, sawed it back and forth until it cut itself free. These fish are crafty mothers. They only strike when they damn well please. Even if you do get one on the line, there's no guarantee of getting it in the boat. But I says to this Michael, I says, if you like, I'll give you some pointers. He looks at me, rolls his eyes, shakes his head and says, oh, I've done some reading on it. And out the door he goes. And Ray kind of leans forward on the counter and says to me, oh, this is going to be some week. Well, he was right. It was a heck of a week. First thing that Michael does, goes around, thrashes around on a Wolf Lake by himself for a couple of days, and he catches himself a great big zero. What are you, crazy? Come on. Did you really think he caught something? In fact, they catch him. They catch him motor trolling. Now, it's illegal to use a motor when you're trolling for muskies. But the heck of it is, he slipped some big bucks to fishing games. They sweep the whole incident right under the damn rug. Then, he gets himself a guide. Some fella from outside BJ who ain't heard the word or mouth on him yet. This Michael turns out to be such a whiny, insufferable little pissant. Halfway through the day, the guide heads for shore, says, out of the boat, just writes off the whole game. Then the wife tells me she heard this Michael actually went over to the Pinecone Lodge Supper Club and tried to secretly offer them a $1,500 check for one of their taxidermied muskies off the wall. What? I says to the missus, $1,500 for someone else's dead fish? That's amazing. And the wife says to me, hey, you'll think sparklers are amazing. I says to her, oh, you're going to get it. Well, finally this Michael does what he should have done from the start. He gets himself the name and the number of the most skilled fishing guide in the whole Northwoods. And when I answered the phone, this is what he says. He says, okay, Vesper, here's the deal. One day, sun up to sunset, $3,000 fish or no fish. And I tell him I'll get back to him. My friends, this is what you call a moral quandary, right there in the dairy state. You know, on the one hand, there is no one in the world I would rather not see catch a muskie. But me and the missus, we talk it over. We take a good hard look at the old bank book, and finally we decide, heck with principles, we need the principle. Besides, I figure it might be kind of fun to get one on the line myself, bring it in right under his nose. Well, halfway through our morning, that's exactly what happens. I hook into a nice 40, 42 incher. First, Michael's begging me to hand the rod over to him, let him bring it in as if he could. And I'm just reeling away saying, I don't recollect that being part of the bargain, friend. Then when I get the fish in the boat, Michael takes out his wallet, starts pulling out currency, trying to bid on the damn thing. And when I throw it back over, heck, let it grow, eh? He just about dives in after it. Pathetic. Well, we don't see no more muskies the rest of the day. Finally, the sun's setting. I pointed out, he says, Michael, it's time to pack it in. He says, one more cast, and he hurls his lure out there, maybe 20 feet. Pretty wimpy cast, but for him, not bad. Let me put it this way. If casts were passes, he was no Aaron Rodgers. No, he was more like a Chicago Bears quarterback. You know the difference between Jay Cutler and a dollar, right? A dollar's got 4 quarters in it. Yeah, so anyway, when his lure hits the lake surface and he starts reeling it in, I'll be damned if his rod tip don't bend all the way down. And I'm thinking, crepes, you dumbass muskie, spit it out, spit it out. But then my conscience sort of gets the better of me. I'm thinking, $3,000, might as well do something to earn it. So he says, Michael, you got to set the hook. And he does, sort of. Good enough, I guess, because he's got the fish on there, you can tell. And with me talking him through, he's able to bring it over alongside the boat, though it takes him longer than it should. And he's screaming out, get the net, get the gaff, like he's got the Loch Ness freaking monster on there or something. I can see it's just a little feller, maybe legal, maybe not quite. No trouble getting it in the boat. A funny looking muskie it is, too. The head is kind of big for the body, and it's got markings on it. I've seen the markings before, but I couldn't recollect where. Anyways, fish measures out to 31 inches. That's 1 inch shy of the legal minimum length at the time. I says, Michael, we got to throw it back in. He says, the hell we do. He grabs the tail, squeezes it together, trying to stretch it out that extra inch. I says to him, what are you doing? You're getting the mucus off. You didn't get your hands wet before you touched him. He's going to need that mucus when he gets back in the lake for protection. Michael says he's not going to need it because he's not going back in the lake. He's going over the fireplace in my Lincoln Park condo. He takes both of his dry, yuppie hands and starts swiping them all over the poor little bugger. Well, at that point, just about ready to take the oar across his head, Wisconsin style. But then I noticed something out in the lake. It's a wake, you know, like a boat leaves behind. Only there ain't no boat involved here. Just this great big V-shaped wake about 60, 70 yards out and coming at us fast. Well, I look at Michael and he don't see it. He's still staring down at his little fish, which is flipping and flopping around on the bottom of the boat like a fish out of water, I suppose. This time when I look at that muskie, I recollect where I've seen them markings before. Yeah, they are not the markings of a 31 inch or a young adult. They are the markings of a muskie hatchling. That would explain the big head too. Only thing is, a typical muskie hatchling is about yay long. So now I'm looking at the fish, and I'm looking at the wake, and I'm doing some quick arithmetic in my head. Yeah? Ratios, you know? But it gets to be what you call a mute point pretty damn quick. Because now here it comes. Here it comes. Rising out of the lake, a musky head the size of a Jeep. Oh, and now that Michael sees it. And he's screaming like a rabbit caught in a trap. And I think, what do I do? What do I do? Quick, I get my hands wet. I grab that monster hatchling, throw it over the side. But it's too little, too late, because it's still coming, still coming. Michael's still screaming. I grab the oar out of the oarlock, hoist it over my head, praying to God for one good swing, and then it stops just shy of the boat. It stops, looks me in the eye, opens its mouth, and it talks. God strike me dead on this spot if that fish don't talk, if it don't look me in the eye and say, oh, you're gonna get it. Then it lurches forward and snaps the boat in two. Takes a piece of my thigh for good measure. Well, once me and Michael hit the lake, That monster muskie must have figured I'd learnt my lesson, because it, well, let's just say it selected the other entree. That's the scene of Michael with something like that. 2 little legs sticking out, him getting chewed on like a milk bone, or maybe more like a pesto radicchio salad. Well, I swam like hell, bleeding out the thigh, swallowing water for all the Hail Marys I say out loud, but I finally made it, by God. I made it to the shore alive. Well, of course I did. Wouldn't be standing here today, would I? Telling you this story, this true story. You believe me, don't you? I detect a note of skepticism. Let's put it to a vote. How many people think I'm telling the truth? I appreciate it. And how many of you think I'm full of some kind of nonsense? Okay, I have met with this response before, young man. And I know where you're coming from. You're thinking to yourself, there ain't no freshwater game fish the size of a whale. Or you're saying to yourself, fish don't talk. You're entitled to that. But if that's the way you feel about it, maybe you want to explain to me how come Doc Gifford back in town had to be pulling this here tooth out of my leg. Ah, see, now he's not talking so much. So, don't you go telling me no fishing stories, because I've got the one to beat all. And don't you go telling me about the one that got away, because as far as I'm concerned, you're looking at him, mister. You're looking at him.